Do you want to write a story but feel totally lost when it comes to plot? What if I told you there's a simple, repeatable formula used by best-selling authors and screenwriters alike? One that can take you from blank page to finished outline in just 7 steps. It's called the 7-point structure, created by author Dan Wells. And yes, it was inspired by a Star Trek role-playing game. In this video, I'll walk you through each step with examples from movies like Titanic, The Dark Knight, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, so you can start building powerful, emotionally satisfying plots today. And at the very end, I'll show you the secret most writers miss, the one thing that makes this structure go from solid to unforgettable. Part 1. So what is the 7-point structure? Here are 7 beats. Hook is the setup. Plot turn 1 is the inciting incident. Pinch 1 is the first pressure point. Midpoint is the shift from reaction to action. Pinch 2 is when all seems lost. Plot turn 2 is grasping victory from defeat. Resolution is the final outcome. At first glance, this might seem like a typical story map, but there's a twist. The magic isn't just in the beats themselves, it's in the order you plan them. Start with the end. You start not at the beginning, but at the end. What's the final state of your story? Where does your character land emotionally, physically, morally? Example, The Dark Knight. Batman takes the blame of Harvey Dent's crimes, sacrificing his reputation to protect Gotham's hope. That down ending, heroic but tragic, determines every other beat. So here's some guiding questions. Is your ending up, happy, or down, tragic? What's the opposite of your final image? What lesson or theme is backed into that conclusion? So here are some practical steps. You define your story's final state. Before you do anything else, write down a clear, concise sentence that sums up your story's ending. For example, my hero sacrifices everything to save their city. My protagonist loses their fortune but gains self-understanding. The villain wins, leaving the world in chaos. This sentence will be your North Star, the fixed point that all your other plot points revolve around. Once you have that, ask yourself, what's the emotional, physical, and moral state of your character at that moment? How does this ending contrast with where they started? With this solid endpoint in place, you're ready to work backward, crafting the story beats that lead your character to that destination. Knowing the ending gives your story a target. Now, let's set up the contrast. The hook is your starting point, and it should be the opposite of the ending. If your character ends strong, start them weak. If they end in ruin, start with comfort or power. An example would be Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Miles Morales begins unsure of himself. He doesn't trust his powers or his place in the world. By the end, he's confident, powerful, and fully embracing the Spider-Man identity. It's a classic growth arc, from doubt to purpose. Okay, so here are some guiding questions, right? What's your character's beginning state? How is it the opposite of their ending state? Is this a growth story, weak to strong, or a shift story, changing types of strength? A practical step is by defining your character's starting point. Write a brief description of your character's life at the story start. Focus on their mindset, circumstances, and weaknesses. Ask yourself, what's missing or broken in their world? What fears or doubts do they carry? What comforts or powers do they currently have? Make sure the starting point contrasts clearly with the ending state you defined earlier. For example, if your character ends confident and strong, their beginning should highlight vulnerability, uncertainty, or lack of control. This contrast creates a compelling character arc and gives your story emotional momentum. The midpoint. Now that you've planned the beginning and end, jump to the midpoint. This is when your character shifts from reacting to acting. They stop being pulled along by the story and start shaping it. Example would be detective stories. The client shows up, the detective takes the case. That's the shift. So here are some guiding questions. What event forces your hero to take action? Here's a practical step. Identify your character's turning point. Write down the key event where your character stops reacting and starts taking control. Ask yourself, what happens that pushes your hero to make a choice or to take action? What decision signals their commitment to the story's conflict? This moment is the heartbeat of your plot's momentum, the point where your character moves from passive to active, changing the stakes and setting the rest of the story in motion. Plot turns and pinches. Now that you've planned the big story beats, it's time to fill in the gaps with the crucial turning points and moments of pressure that keep your plot moving forward. Plot turn 1, the inciting incident. This is the event that disrupts your character's ordinary world and kicks off the main conflict. It might be a secret revealed, a new person arriving, a call to adventure. It forces your protagonist out of their comfort zone and sets the story in motion. A practical step is to write down one disruptive event that shatters your character's normal life. Ask, what shakes up their world? How does this event force them to react or change course? Pinch 1, the first pressure point. This is where the stakes start to rise. Often the villain or opposing force makes their first strong move. It shows your hero what they're really up against and increases tension. A practical step is to identify the moment your antagonist or conflict first directly threatens your protagonist. So ask, what action or obstacle raises the stakes? How does your hero respond to this pressure? Pinch 2, the jaws of defeat. Here, everything seems to fall apart. The hero suffers a major setback. Maybe their plan fails, a mentor dies, or the enemy gains the upper hand. The moment heightens drama and tests your character's resolve. So here's a practical step. Describe the worst possible outcome your hero could face before the final act. Ask, what loss or failure pushes your character to their breaking point? How does this deepen the story's tension? Plot turn 2, grasping victory. This is the moment your hero finds the last key they need to overcome the conflict. Think of it as the use the force moment, or when they realize the power was inside us all along. So a practical step would be to write down what final insight, tool, or strength your character gains here. Ask, what tests their resolve at this point? What inner or outer strength do they discover? And how will this help them face the ultimate challenge? These moments bridge the big story beats and keep your narrative charged with energy and emotion. Filling in these turning points with intention will make your plot feel strong, focused, and satisfying. The final touches. Dan Wells adds 5 key elements to take your story from outline to unforgettable. Round characters, well-developed, multi-dimensional characters with strengths, flaws, and complexity, just like real people. Give them goals, flaws, and contradictions. Rich environments. Build worlds like Gotham, Pandora, or Westeros. While this topic deserves a full video of its own, here's a tip. Your setting should do more than look cool. It should actively affect and challenge your characters and add to their emotional journey. Subplots, romance, betrayal, redemption, each can use this same 7-beat structure. The Ice Monster prologue. Start with a cold open, an exciting action scene, or a tease of what's coming later. It's called the Ice Monster prologue, named after the opening of Game of Thrones, where George R.R. Martin begins with characters facing a real ice monster. A great way to begin an epic story. Try fail cycles. The hero should fail at least twice before they succeed, so the victory feels earned, right? Here's how try-fail cycles typically fit into the 7-point structure. Try 1. Between plot turn 1, inciting incident, and pinch 1, the hero attempts a solution but fails, raising stakes. Try 2. Between midpoint and pinch 2, after taking action, the hero faces a bigger obstacle and fails again, deepening conflict. Success. After plot turn 2, grasping victory, the hero uses newfound strength or insight to finally succeed. Part 7, the twist you've been waiting for. Here it is. The real power of the 7-point structure isn't just in its beats, it's in the order you plan them. Most writers plan chronologically, so beginning to end. Dan Wells goes backwards, starting with the ending, then the beginning, and then jumping back and forth to fill in the rest. Why does this matter? Because when you know the destination, your story becomes focused and purposeful. Every decision builds towards something, and that's how you write stories that resonate. So don't just plot forward, reverse engineer your story and watch the pieces fall into place. So that's the 7-point structure in a nutshell. If you want to dive deeper and see even more examples, I've written a detailed article on my blog. You can find the link in the comments below. Before you go, tell me, what story are you working on, and which of the 7 points are you most excited to plan? Thanks for watching and happy plotting. Bye.